Like, I think my highest grossing sales day has been $34,000, right, in one day. Before I started using BQool, I probably had a buy box percentage of around, I would say, 5 to 7%. Okay, so that's not a lot. Now it's over 60. So it's completely changed my ability to push through product, 100%. It didn't just save me time. I think it saved me my fingers, right? Because imagine like having to go into the Seller Central app every few minutes to try to scroll down through products. Like, your hands just get worn out, I would say it's countless hours, right? It saved me 30 seconds, 500 times a day, at least. And I think BQool's done a good job of releasing new features. So to me, workflow was important. Like being able to pump out boxes because I was doing my own prep for a long time. Well, it's true, like BQool is one of the better things that's happened in my business.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very impressive seller with us today. His name is Pedro Bermudez. He's a 7-figure Amazon seller and mentor and a coach. And he is an expert. Like a lot of people you see online right now, they've been asking him questions in different Facebook groups. He's been doing this for a long time. Yeah, he's not just been doing this for 1 or 2 years. He's an actual 7-figure seller, and he's able to help people. And so we welcome Pedro to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
Pedro, I'm doing great. And as I know, congratulations to Peru to making it into the World Cup. Yeah, really happy.
They actually haven't made it quite yet. They got to play one more game in June. I believe it's in June against Australia, and if they win that one, then they're in the World Cup. So today was a big match.
So there's still one more match to go.
There's still one more match
to go.
Yeah.
Why don't we start talking about you? How did you get started in your Amazon business?
Wow, man. You're gonna make me go back, give you some history here. I actually didn't start on Amazon initially. I started on eBay in the late 90s, early 2000s, way back when, anything that you posted on eBay would sell almost instantly. And, I got my first taste of arbitrage by buying and selling, physical DVDs and CDs. I used to live in Vancouver, and it was very inexpensive to buy a DVD or a CD in that city at that time. For whatever reason, it was considered the best place in the world to buy this type of media. So I remember I had this idea like right out of college, or in college actually, when I was in university. And I thought, wow, I could just go to these record stores and take the names of the items that are on the shelves and take photos of the items, and then go back home and list them on eBay at a profit, see if they sell. And the first day I went out, I listed 10 or 15, and I think I sold like 10 or 12, and I said, oh my goodness, what's this? And then I went back the next day, listed another 100, and then I kept doing that for a long time, and it just kept going. And it was great because I didn't even have to buy the product until it sold. This was back in the day when e-commerce was not really mature at all, at least not in Canada. So shipping was expensive. It took a long time, but we still made it work. So I did that for a few years, and then I got into some other businesses, and then it was more of a hobby. I wasn't making like money hand over fist, and I had gone to university, so I wanted to, go get a corporate job like I was supposed to. And I went out and got a job, and I've worked for some really big companies for a long time. I worked for Coca-Cola bottling. I worked for a big engine manufacturer in Germany, MTU. I've worked for Nokia. I've worked for some pretty big enterprises, but I felt something was missing, and I discovered Amazon quite by accident. I remember my brother told me he had sold a book on Amazon as soon as he listed it, and I'm like, wow, if he can do it, I can do it. And that's how I got into it. And it was around 2016 when I did that.
Oh, so that's how around 6 years ago. Yeah, like you got into the Amazon. I remember the eBay days. Those were when you find items, you can list them, and Where did you go in Vancouver? Because I was there around the same time. Like, where did you go in Vancouver to find those
Okay.
CDs and DVDs? Like, I'm just curious. Yeah.
It was Virgin Records.
Okay, that's
I
like in
don't know.
downtown, right?
Yeah, right downtown, Virgin Records. There was another store called Sam the Record Man. I mean, these stores all went bankrupt, right? Like they all disappeared. Another one was A&B Sound, I think it was called. They were all stores downtown, all within very close proximity of each other, and they were all very competitive in the space. Basically, I was just arbitraging currency exchange because I would buy the media in Canadian dollars.
Right.
When the Canadian dollar was a 60 cent US dollar, and then I would turn around and sell it in the US for a few more dollars than I had paid for it in Canada, but in US currency. And at the time, the eBay fees were not that high. So it was profitable. And again, it was the glory days when anything you listed got sold.
Right. Right. Now it's very competitive.
Yeah, it was not as competitive back then. Now it's very competitive for sure. And I think they lost a lot of their user base to Amazon. People shop on Amazon 100 times more than they do on eBay now. I think people go onto eBay to find a bargain, like a garage sale style, whereas they go to Amazon to look for quality and speedy delivery.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think with Amazon, with the fulfillment centers, they're able to deliver the products a lot faster. So people
Yeah.
like that convenience. So, what has starting an Amazon business help you achieve?
Well, I think starting an Amazon business really gave me a vision as to what it's like to not trade time for money. Let me explain that further. So, as a corporate worker, you're trading your time for dollars. You're trading most of your time for dollars. I mean, you're at work between 8 and 10 hours a day with traffic and whatnot. Whereas on Amazon, it really opened my eyes to the possibility of trading profits for products and the limitless potential that this brings. So I remember very early on when I first started on Amazon, on my first couple of days that I started doing it, sending in products for real, as in sending in box after box after box, getting to $200 a day, to $300 a day, to 500, to 1,000, to 2,000. There's really no limit. Like I think my highest grossing sales day has been $34,000, right, in one
In
day.
just one day? Oh, wow.
In just one day, like it was like a Prime Day in 2019 or 2020, like before the pandemic. Again, it just opens your eyes to your ability as a human being to generate that much revenue as quickly as you can. You're never going to do it trading time for money. Like it's just not possible. You can work 8 hours in a day, but you can sell 600 or 1,000 items in a day as well. So it's quite different.
Yeah, it's like with Amazon business, your Amazon business is selling 24 hours. When you're
Correct.
working, your 8 hours, you put it in, you ship it in, you list it, the products are selling, by themselves. Let me ask you, you tried different business models. I know you've tried all different types, Amazon business models, private
Yeah.
label, wholesale, drop shipping, and also arbitrage and online arbitrage. Why do you recommend people to start out with arbitrage first?
Okay. I think it's a great way to learn the ecosystem, like the Amazon ecosystem. It's a low cost way of doing it. Let me give you an idea. Like I think the first item I told you I sold was a book. It was a used book. I don't even think I paid for it. I think it was just one of my old books that I had lying around that I just picked up the Amazon app, the Amazon seller app, and I scanned it and I said, "Hey, I can sell this and make a few bucks. Let's try it." You can go to like a thrift store and get used books. You can, find them on Facebook for free. You can go to university groups and buy them from the students there as well, and send them into Amazon. So it's not a very high cost way of starting the business. You can go to Walmart and with a little patience and some tenacity, you can find some items to buy and sell at a profit, if you spend the time. Like you got to do the work, but you will find it. With online arbitrage, it's the same thing as retail arbitrage. I mean, you're sitting and you're copy pasting UPCs into Amazon to see which one spits out a profit. Now, there are much more sophisticated ways of doing this, as you know. Like you can use software to scrape websites and find deal after deal after deal. But like if you really just want to caveman it, like you can just copy paste from retail store to Amazon and try to find a price variance that you can make a profit on. Now, when I say you can learn the ecosystem, I mean you can start from zero and just watch little YouTube videos and figure it out on your own, and eventually you'll figure it out. The difference between that and starting like with a PL product where you launch your own brand is cost, really. One, you don't really know the ecosystem, so if you make a mistake, it's going to be very costly. I've seen people try to launch products and then they realize, oh, that product is patented, but they already have an order in for 1,000 units and they're out 7 grand, just like that. Other people that I've seen that have problems with the UPC codes, they didn't set them up right, and then Amazon never allows that UPC to be listed ever again. Again, you have to relabel all your items. It's going to cost you a handling fee depending on how many thousand items you have. You're losing out on storage, you're losing out on labor. A lot of problems that way. The other thing is that you can pick the wrong product because you don't really know uh, how the Amazon system works. You pick the wrong product on 1,000 unit order, you're out 7 grand again, right? Considering that your product is worth $7 a piece. And it's very easy to pick the wrong product. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of nuances involved in selecting a product. And also, you got to think about the consumer. Like, if the consumer picks up your product and says, wow, I paid $30 for this, it's a piece of junk. It's going to get sent back. You get enough of these items sent back, and Amazon will close your listing. So then again, you're out 1,000 units, right? Retail and online arbitrage, there are all sorts of tools available that tell you exactly how much an item is going to sell for. They tell you exactly how much profit you're going to make. And pretty much, plus or minus a few items, how many of those items are going to sell in a month. So it's like jumping into a pool knowing exactly how much water is in it and how deep it is. So you're not going to get, into major financial trouble by doing something like that. You can start with 10 units as opposed to 1,000. There's no minimum order in retail arbitrage. Like you're just trying to fill a box, not a difficult proposition, right? If you can fill the box and ship it in, you're going to save on shipping. You're not shipping containers, so that's the other difference. The other difference I would say that is very important is that when you're selling known branded products, these products are already ranked on Amazon. Now I can get into a whole discussion about rank, but if the product is not ranked, you're going to be on page 200 of, on the Amazon catalog and not on page number 1. To get on page number 1, you have to spend tens of thousands of dollars on, pay-per-click advertising. So again, if you're selling a $10 product and it's going to cost you $10 a click to get onto the first page, unless you have really deep pockets, you're going to go broke and you're going to give up and you're done. And your Amazon journey is over and over forever because you'll never come back. So again, retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, wholesale. Wholesale is the next evolution. I think if you find a good product in retail or online, if you're able to source it wholesale, you'll do well. At least you know what you're looking for. Some people start out with wholesale. They go out and they buy 200 units thinking they're going to make some money, and they end up losing $500 easy, selling their unit at cost, or even selling their units at, a few dollars over cost because there's too much competition and they just didn't know what to get. Again, with retail arbitrage, it's a more mitigated, measured risk. Online arbitrage, same thing. Wholesale, you're taking a little bit more risk. You should know a little bit more about what you're doing and what you're buying. You mentioned drop shipping. I've never done drop shipping. Drop shipping is dangerous on Amazon. I have a lot of experience with account health issues. I've helped a lot of people, reclaim their accounts after Amazon deactivated them. One of the main reasons for getting shut down is drop shipping. So Amazon doesn't like drop shipping. They'll accept it under very specific circumstances. But if you think you can, order something at Home Depot and have it shipped to a customer, you're going to get caught. You have no control of when Home Depot ships that item. You have no control of how they ship it and what paperwork they include. Customers complain and you'll get shut down. I see it all the time.
It sounds like there's a lot more risk with the different business models. And to come in with retail arbitrage, with online arbitrage, it's much more, the barriers is much lower. And then your risk level is also lower. And you're able to understand the ecosystem before you go further in.
Yeah. And it's not rocket science. Like you're just picking up an app and you're looking for an item that costs you less than what you're selling it for, after the fees. And if you can do that basic math, you'll be fine. And then again, it's about learning how to navigate inside, Seller Central, and just learning the little nuances of what you should and shouldn't sell, right? Some products are more risky than others, right? I tried to sell items that aren't going to kill or maim anybody. Product liability is a real thing, right? So I'm not going to be selling sharp knives or anything that anyone can hang themselves with or, suffocate with. I aim for safe products. I
Hmm.
aim to sell something that looks like it holds value, because if you're selling junk, it's going back. Like I mentioned earlier, that Amazon tells you the average selling price for an item, all the way back to a full year or 2 years. Some data will tell you that something it's selling for a lot of money. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to, right? Don't be greedy. You gotta try to measure the risk, right? If you're selling an item that looks like it's worth $30 for 100, you can expect some returns, and over time, returns will kill your account. So that's my take.
So going back a little bit, earlier you talked about having an Amazon business while still working full time in a corporate job in some of the largest companies, Fortune 500 companies that are very demanding as well. How do you manage? How do you manage that?
Amazon is a very scalable business. So I mean, I let's go back to the very beginning. I mean, when I first started, I mentioned to you that eBay was a bit of a hobby of mine. So I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed, going out looking for treasures and on the weekends and garage sales and thrift stores, and finding those things. It was very satisfying to find an item that I could pay $10 for and sell it for 200, right? So it kind of stems from that. So after my corporate job, you know, I would work every day for a few years, every day from, after 5 or 6 p.m. all the way up to midnight. And I did that for years. And this is after I had my second child. He's 9 years old now. I never really got used to sleeping after I had him. So my sleep cycle's around 6 hours. So I'm up early in the morning and I go to sleep late at night. So I did that for a long time. Once I figured out Amazon, and everyone eventually figures it out. It's a matter of time and really focus, right? Like if you focus on it and you really really want it, you'll get it, because all the information that you need is there. Once you figure it out, you can outsource a lot of the tasks. So I have a remote team in the Philippines that manages all of the administrative work. I taught my wife how to do arbitrage, like at a very proficient level. My wife's a lawyer, okay? So she no longer practices law. She runs an Amazon store. That's
Oh,
how
wow.
lucrative it is. Yeah. Once you figure it out, you can teach and outsource certain aspects of it. Like I haven't prepped a product in over a year now. I had experimented with multiple prep centers in the past. I went back to my own prep because I like the quality management aspect of it. Like I mentioned, I know a little bit about account health and what gets you kicked out of Amazon, and if you don't really have very tight processes down with the prep centers, you could lose your account too, right? So I took control just to get things stable again. And then I've retrained a prep center to do things the way that I expect them to do it, so that Amazon doesn't give me any trouble. So now I don't touch product. I don't spend money on PPC. I have remote teams doing all of my inventory reconciliation. I have an automated repricer with BQool, right? So before I used to
Thank
go
you.
in and like change my prices. Well, it's true, like BQool is one of the better things that's happened in my business. All my stuff is competitive all the time. I hold the buy box almost 60% of the time. The other time I don't hold it is because Amazon has items on stock and they won't share it. So like you can't
Right.
really win there.
Suppressed, right? The listing.
Yeah, you just wait them out. So the business is very scalable, right? Unlike any other business, unlike any other job, you can really outsource a lot of the tasks. The only thing that I keep control of is managing the finances, right? The cash flow, because you're spending a lot of money. A lot of money's coming in, but a lot of money is committed to different expenditures, right? Supplier spend, retail spend, online spend, services spend, taxes, like whatever you got to have money to pay for. That's what I oversee. And I also work on developing, new strategic ventures, right? That's where my role is in this whole thing now.
I'm wondering because as a Canadian, how do you manage to sell into the US? Because we have a lot of Canadian sellers to just sell in the Canadian marketplace, but you have multiple marketplaces that you're running. You have thousands of listings. How do you do that? How do you sell into the US?
Well, it's kind of funny. Like I initially started selling in Canada. This was 6 years ago when e-commerce hadn't been very developed here, and the sell through I found slow. So I figured out how to sell in the states. And Amazon, when you're a Canadian, American, or Mexican seller, you can create a unified seller account. It's just part of the package when you sign up. It doesn't cost anymore, but it allows you to sell in different marketplaces right off the bat. All you need to do is enter your banking information and create a listing, and you're ready to go. Like there's not much to it.
What about shipping the products and sourcing them as well? Because you're in Canada.
Yeah, that's where it gets more nuanced, right? And that's the secret sauce too. No one's going to go out and tell you exactly what you need to do unless you hire mentorship services or something along the line of consulting. But yeah, I mean, there are transportation companies that move product from north to south and from south to north, and internationally as well, globally. And there are all sorts of rules and regulations around importing and exporting items. And as long as you follow them and you play in the rules, it's really not a problem. Amazon has facilitated payment a lot more than they used to. So before you would have to set up a bank account in the US, you no longer have to do that. You can just get paid directly to your Canadian account. You're not going to get the best exchange rate, but until you figure out how to optimize exchange rates and whatnot, you can do it. And my recommendation to people is to just do it. Just go out and do it. It's not hard. Goods have been moving across international borders way before Amazon ever existed. So everything that you need to do is already there, right?
Right, right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So many people are a bit scared to start their Amazon business. What would you say to somebody in that situation? And what would your suggestion be?
I would say, what are you scared of, man? Like, that's you got to do something. If you're just gonna work 9 to 5, I mean, you can, but you're never really gonna have an extraordinary life. Like, you're never gonna, unless you have a super excellent, amazing position. But I can tell you from experience, having very high ranked positions in global companies, they're not going to pay you as much as you would earn on Amazon. Like if you're doing Amazon right, it's life changing, without a doubt, in every aspect of your livelihood. If you're doing it wrong, you have a side hustle. You have a little bit of extra cash coming in, maybe, but it's really about figuring out what to do and how to do it right. So, what I would tell somebody who's scared is I would be more scared of not doing something, because living an average life, at least to me, scares me. And that's it.
Yeah, it's kind of, I think of Robinson Crusoe, right? You're scared of something you don't know, right? Like that's what are you afraid of, right? What's the worst thing that could happen?
Well, I mean, if you're doing online or retail arbitrage, the worst thing that can happen is that you give it a try, you learn a new skill, you make a few bucks, maybe you lose a few bucks, but at least you tried, and you're not going to have the doubt. You're not going to question yourself. What could I have done? Whether you want to do retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, wholesale, or launch a brand. Hey, maybe you should launch a brand. If you have a really good product and a really good idea, go for it. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to learn the Amazon ecosystem the hard way, but you're going to learn. And once you learn it, if you're persistent, you will get there. Like I can tell you, I'm not a very sophisticated, like technically savvy person. Like you saw how long it took me to set up this microphone. I don't think I would have been able to do it unless your guy was telling me how. But I joined a small group of like-minded Amazon sellers, and we all help each other. And you could do that too. Just form a chat with 5 or 6 buddies, and we've all grown. Like everyone in my group has grown into 7 figures. So it's just a matter of hanging around the right people. Don't hang around people that are going to tell you not to. Don't hang around people that are going to tell you it's risky or dangerous or that you're going to lose your shirt. Just don't. Just go out and do it.
That's really interesting. Like you say, you have a mastermind of like-minded people who want to have the same goal. And I think it's so important because, like, you talked about the journey, of a new Amazon seller, and you will eventually get there if you focus, if you put in the hours, if you learn in different ways. But if you have someone who mentors, someone who leads you, it's so much faster. You can avoid some of the pitfalls that most people, you don't need to pay that tuition fee to the market sometimes. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering, what kind of products does your Amazon store sell? And do you need to get ungated for that? Because you talked a little bit, like you talked about starting out in books. We've sold some books, and then some of the books when we sell them, like we don't have the authorization to sell it because of the publisher and whatnot. I'm wondering, what kind of products does your Amazon store sell, and do you need to get ungated for that?
Yeah, okay. So I'll explain a little bit how the ungating process works. So ungating, I would say that Amazon has a little bit of a hidden criteria when it comes to ungating. So it doesn't surprise me that you say that you're not allowed to sell certain books with a new account. That's correct. You probably can't, but I bet you could sell it as used. I think uh, Amazon is not very restrictive when it comes to selling used books because that's really where they started, and I think that's where they want people to focus on initially. Because you can sell a used book in good condition or acceptable condition, it's very unlikely someone's going to complain about it. See, Amazon is very concerned about quality. And to them, the quality of your supply chain is very important. So they want to make sure that you have a business relationship with whoever you're sourcing these products from so that, the customer gets the best possible experience possible. And there's no counterfeits or it's less likely to happen. Just making sure that the condition of the items is good, etc. So with used books, it's a very low risk area for them. So they'll allow you to play in that space for quite some time. They also let you play in the space of like home and kitchen accessories as long as they're not branded. If they're a major retail brand, it'll likely be gated and you'll have to go through the ungating process. But what allows people to get ungated? So it's transactions. So the more transactions that you have in your account that haven't come back with some kind of flag for a problem that the customer has had with the item that you sent or the condition or the authenticity or just your feedback as a seller, the less problems you have, the more likely you are to get ungated automatically when you apply. They still want you to apply, but 9 times out of 10, once you have an account history, when you hit that request to apply, you get automatically ungated due to performance metrics. Okay. Now, there are some brands that are still hard gated and you won't be able to get it unless you get a distributor's invoice. But you can do that too. I mean, it's just you got Google, you find, the distributor and you try to talk them into selling to you. A lot of them won't, but a lot of them will. And the criteria is pretty straightforward. So all they want you to do is really buy an item, at least 10 units of an item from what they consider an authorized distributor. Again, this is or a wholesaler. This is a hidden criteria. Like we don't know what they consider an authorized distributor or wholesaler. I've seen people get rejected. I've been rejected with legitimate invoices. I've been rejected, and I can't for the life of me understand why. But then I'll try again with the same invoice 3 months later, and it gets accepted. So
Wow.
it's really a luck of the draw. It depends who you get on the support side or on the performance side. It depends how your metrics are at the time you apply. I don't know if there's a hidden metric that you need to have at least 10,000 transactions to sell a certain type of running shoe. Maybe there is. Why wouldn't there be? Amazon, they own the playground, they make the rules, right? They don't have to tell you all the rules, and they don't. I've been rejected for ungates with legitimate wholesale invoices, and have been told that it has nothing to do with me as a seller. That they're just not going to disclose why I'm not going to get it, and that's it. It could be that they have a quota system. It could be that we're only going to let 15,000 sellers carry this brand, and if anyone else wants it, we're not going to let them until there's space for them, or we make that 20,000 sellers. We don't know. There are some products that I'm allowed to ungate that other sellers are not even allowed to ungate. They don't even get the option to ungate. And again, I don't know if that's driven by metrics, number of transactions, time on the platform. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of like a hidden black box. You don't really know for
Yeah.
sure, and it might work this time, but next time it might not work, and then it might work again. So you have to keep on trying, like what you did with that product, with the invoices. Now, talking about sourcing, could you give our audience some tips about sourcing? Because you have a lot of experience in this, especially in this field.
Well, I mean, there are products everywhere. Everywhere you look, you can use software to find them. You can go to stores to find them. You can just scan and browse the internet to find them. You really just have to try to find that price variance where you see that there's a value or a high demand on a product and that there's a lack of availability somewhere else. Like, you got to remember, you're trying to take advantage of micro like inefficiencies in the global supply chain, right? So you might live in a city that has a lot of a very specific product, we'll say Snoopy wallets, and there's a lot of demand for those in certain parts of California. There's so much demand there that they can't get them, but you go to your store and wow, they're everywhere. And that's the type of opportunity you need to find, and that's the opportunities that you take. Now, using the apps, you can tell how many of those wallets are going to sell, so you know exactly how many to buy, and you can measure your risk. The other tip I would give people is to try to sell something that looks like it holds value. Like, if it looks like a piece of junk, it's going to get returned. And finally, and I think I mentioned this earlier, like, go for low liability. You don't want to sell something that could injure somebody. Product liability is a big problem. So much so that Amazon now requires sellers that reach a certain threshold. I think it's $10,000 a month to get product liability insurance, and it's not cheap.
So that's another extra expenses on the seller side, out of your
Yeah,
own pocket. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. It's out of my own pocket, but it's going to protect me in case somebody actually hurts themselves with something that I'm selling. So,
So talking about this, like, how do you avoid severe competition when you're sourcing?
well, in my case, I buy everything out, right? So the way to limit competition for me is, if I see 500 left of something, I'll buy it, and then there's no one else can play. So that's one of the things that I do. If it's too much for me to buy, too much risk, I'll talk to somebody in my mastermind group and we'll buy it together.
Like,
So that's
you're a seven-figure seller, right? But what if I'm just starting out? I can't compete with someone like you. Like,
well, you can. You can.
how would I
You
avoid? Yeah.
you can. So mature sellers, okay, we will set our buy box to match. And you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
right?
I do.
So
Yeah.
it's not gonna be a race to the bottom on price. We'll set to match and we'll sell for market price. So as you know, there's buy box rotation. So I might have 1,000 of a unit and you might have 10, but we'll get an equal chance to sell it. So that's my and every experienced seller will do that because we're all buying from the same places. There's only so many retail stores, there are only so many wholesalers, and they all sell the same things. So, like I said, experienced sellers will set their repricing in a certain way, and as long as people align, they'll be able to compete. I mean, to me, a new seller coming in with 10 units is not a threat, right? So I'll let them sell their stuff out. I don't care. And if they drop the price too much, they're only hurting themselves because they'll sell out in a couple of days and I'll still have the buy box the rest of, for whatever time for the rest of my 500 units. So,
So you're still gonna sell it out at the market price. When you've done your research, you know this is gonna sell. You know this has
yeah.
a good bestsellers rank, and roughly how much. How many do you know? Like, you talk about, like, buying, like, when you're sourcing. How do you decide how many do you buy?
Well, I just use the software, right? Like, I know the sell through. So, I mean, I'll get 2 month stock, 3 month stock. On occasion, I'll get 4 month stock because I have holding power now, too, right? Like, I have multiple locations where I can store products before sending them to Amazon. That was the result of the whole fiasco last year with the storage limits. I was
Hmm.
forced to get a facility to store my products. So, and a lot of people did as well. So, kind of a good thing, I guess, because now I have holding power. So if there's an item that I know is historically going to sell at a certain price, I'll just hold on to it. I'll buy as much as I can of it and I'll hold on to it. Again, it's all about managing cash flow. So you have to have enough products selling that you can cover that space of time where you might not need that money, right? So as long as you're able to do it, you'll be fine. If you need the money, you can just drop the price and sell it out and get the money back and then invest it into something else.
What kind of ROIs do you recommend for people to set? Like, for example, for their mins, what would be an ROI that's acceptable for you when you're sourcing a product?
I like to do between 17 and 25% margin. So if you know what margin is, it's more than just ROI, right? But my ROI, I go anywhere between 40 and 100%.
Okay, depending on the
So
product, depending on the
yeah,
category.
depending on the product. Like if I know that it's something, if it's something that's hard to get, then I'm going to charge whatever I want for it because I know there's limited supply. If it's something that I can easily get more of, I basically would follow BQool repricing rules, right? I did make some modifications to mine. So I have my price resets at random times during the day. It goes up 30% just in case somebody was, I want somebody to sell out at a low price. Mine will protect itself by going higher, and then it'll start dropping again to remain competitive. If there's no competition, it'll stay up.
You set all these up in the BQool repricer.
Yeah,
Like, and and how long have you been using the BQool repricer for?
I've been using it since I started. So the first year I was on Amazon, I realized that I couldn't. So I started with few SKUs, 10 SKUs, then I grew to 40, then I grew to 50, then I grew to 100, and I couldn't micromanage the pricing. Like I wasn't going to be changing my pricing every 10 minutes to compete with people in Q4. It just didn't make any sense. So I bought your basic plan at the time. And it was repricing like every 15 minutes or something, and it was life changing. And then as I got more and more and more SKUs, I mean, even now it's hard to manage, right? Even with an automated repricer, because you still have to go in and you have to make sure that your thresholds are correct. And I've gotten a little bit more sophisticated with it. Like I'll check my buy box percentages and I'll filter through that because you guys provide a lot of filters that really make it really easy to go through to see what it is that I need to action. So on an everyday basis, I probably have to action around 80 items unless I've got a new lot of items coming in. And then once I do that, then I have to filter for everything new that isn't repriced. And then I go into that and I set my parameters to that as well. I find it really helpful that you guys can set a set to ignore certain sellers because there's some people that I just won't compete with. Like if I know they're just going to tank the price, I don't even care. I'll just let them sell out. So I put their little username in there, and it just you know it skips them, it ignores them, and they can do what they wish. But yeah, I mean, the repricer is one of the, I would say, the most important softwares that I have.
For the repricing rules that you set, like the algorithmic ones that you use, what's your thought process when you're setting them up? Because I know you use a lot of very advanced custom settings.
My thought is protect margin, right? So my first year, I didn't know how to set up the repricer, and I just set it to be competitive, and I didn't know what that meant, that it would drop the price by a penny every 15 minutes. I probably upset a lot of people, but I didn't do it intentionally. I just didn't know, and I think some more mature, sophisticated sellers realized that my repricer was set in a certain way, so they would just price me down and let me sell out at the worst time. So I remember my first big lesson, my first Q4, I sold out of everything like just before December, like sold out of everything.
Oh,
And
wow.
then I remember seeing, wow, no matter what I would have bought, it would have sold out because everyone just held price. And December 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, everything went up 40, 50%. And I missed out on that party. So that's when I got into the research of getting into the repricer and figuring out how to make things oscillate and, random reset times, and really trying to go for match, right? Trying to go for match the buy box, increase price, compete under very specific circumstances.
I'm wondering, you decided to get a repricer for your business, the BQool repricer. How has it helped your business since getting the BQool repricer?
Buy box percentage when you're selling new items is one of the most important things because you can have a great product, you can have a lot of units, you may have been able to source most of them, But if you've got a few people with an automated repricer and you don't have one, they're going to sell 10 times more than you are, you know? And by the time that you are able to start selling again because they sold out, that magical window where you could make the most margin will be gone. So, how has it helped my business? Like you said, I have hundreds of SKUs per marketplace, if not thousands. I couldn't possibly manage all of them at once. And before I started using BQool, I probably had a buy box percentage of around, I would say, 5 to 7%. Okay, so that's not a lot. Now it's over 60. When I don't have it, it's because I'm letting somebody else have it or Amazon has it. So it's completely changed my ability to push through product, 100%.
So when you decided to use the BQool repricer, what was important for you when you were picking the repricer?
When I was picking a repricer, I wanted something that was easy to use because, like I said, like I had a really hard time initially learning Amazon. Like it didn't come natural to me. I found I got stuck at every process. I remember one of my good buddies now from Amazon, we started about the same time. He may have started a few months before me, but he picked it up really fast. He was very technically savvy, and man, I had to call the guy and do a video call for him to help me set up my printer, like my label printer. Like I couldn't do it. I had a really hard time creating a shipping plan. I didn't know how to add inventory. Like I kept doing repeat listings, like it was just foolish. Like I didn't know how to do anything. So to me, the thought of like, ooh, an automated algorithmic repricing, it just sounded very complicated. You know, I started asking around, and a few people that I looked up to in the space were using BQ. There were other alternatives in the market. I can't even remember their names now, but they've even changed names, but they were hundreds of dollars. And I was thinking, I'm selling hundreds of dollars. Why am I going to spend hundreds of dollars on a repricer? And I remember at the time, BQool was one of the most affordable ones.
It still is.
Okay, and maybe it is. I don't know. You know what? I don't even know. I don't even check because I'm so happy with what I've got that I'm good with it. You know, it works. It's easy to use. You know, and the rules work, and I'm very comfortable with it. Right. So that's why I continue to use it. You know what they say, right? If something's not broken, don't try to fix it. Right. And I think BQool has done a good job of releasing new features. So to me, workflow was important, like being able to pump out boxes because I was doing my own prep for a long time. And you guys, you know, you linked up with Inventory Lab. And, you know, I remember when I discovered Inventory Lab to list, it was game changing. To have the integration with BQool and Inventory Lab, it really, really made it powerful, right? Because then I could just do everything in one step. I really hate touching things more than once. And being able to like create the listing, get the label, get the repricer rule set up, print the label, pack the box, and ship it out, it just made a huge difference. I don't know that any other repricer has an integration with Inventory Lab or a software similar to it, but it made a big deal for me.
How much time do you think using the BQool repricer saved you as a very busy
Oh
person
man,
like you yourself?
well, man, like it didn't just save me time. I think it saved me my fingers, right? Because imagine like having to go into the Seller Central app every few minutes to try to scroll down through products. Like you know, your hands just get worn out. You know, I would say it's countless hours, right? I think it saved me 30 seconds 500 times a day at least. So you figure
Oh
that out.
wow. Okay.
Right? Because when you go through it, each and every listing, it takes a few seconds, right? And you have hundreds of listings, it's hundreds of seconds, multiple times a day,
That's 15,000 seconds.
whatever, it's all day, right? So you're not going to give access to a virtual assistant to go in and change your pricing too, right? It's something very personal to me anyway. A mistake in repricing can mean whether
Right. You could lose profits, right? And then if it's a virtual assistant, like he's not gonna. He's like, well, he's not a permanent. You could get angry at him, but yeah, he's not gonna
yeah,
He's not gonna pay you back for the money that he lost in most cases.
no. And lost money is money you can't reinvest. And in Amazon, when you're trying to grow Amazon, you need to reinvest as much as you can into the inventory, because that's what really gets it going.
I'm wondering if you want to give yourself and our audience 3 tips from when you first started, what would that be?
I think the first tip would be to just start, right? Because I remember I diddled around with the thought of starting for months. And Amazon only gets more and more restrictive with time. So between the time I started and now, it's probably a lot more restrictive. Like, they do a video call to make sure you are who you say you are now. The gates, there are way more gates now than they were before. Margins get lower and lower every year. Like, there's all sorts of fees that they come up with, and storage and things that didn't exist before. So it's definitely becoming more and more complicated. So my first tip would be to just get started. My second tip is to avoid mistakes, right? And how do you avoid mistakes? Like, you gotta talk to people that know what they're doing. This is one of the things that I've gotten into recently. I started mentoring people on a one-on-one basis. So people will pay me, and I will guide them through to help them avoid very costly mistakes. And by costly mistakes, I mean things like buying the wrong items, buying the wrong amount of items, getting their account deactivated. I mean, it's so common for new sellers. Like, Amazon is so unforgiving because they're so structured and they're so focused on quality that they want to make sure they have the right people on board. And if you make one mistake at the beginning, that's it, you're gone. And getting your account back is tough and it's expensive. Account recovery services, like, they'll charge you $5,000 to write a letter on your behalf. No guarantees that you'll get your account back. So you want to avoid mistakes. You want to avoid storage rooms full of dead, useless products. And I've been there, right? I Having to liquidate, your hard-earned money, it's not a good feeling. Getting fast at Amazon is important. So invest in the right software and the right tools that will make you get faster. That'll help you get better at it. So things like, you know, workflow software, Repricer, data analytics, all of those things are very important for a successful Amazon business. Like, if you just want to sell as a hobby to make an extra couple $100 a month, you don't need that stuff, right? But then again, if you're going to do that, you don't need Amazon. Just go do eBay. But if you want to turn it into something serious, something that you could live off, something that could potentially change your life, like, you need to learn. You need to learn quickly. You need to do things right. Always follow Amazon's rules, right? Like I said, they're very unforgiving. Don't try to cheat. You'll never win. Yeah, I mean, just invest in your business, invest in yourself, and you'll get there. Don't give up after you go to a store and you scan for a couple of hours, and you spent a whole 3 days trying it. Don't give up. I see people posting that on the internet once in a while, and my eyes roll so far in the back of my head. I'm just like, oh my goodness. I went to the store and I scanned and I spent an hour and I didn't find anything. Amazon doesn't work. It won't work if you do it like that. Your initial time on Amazon will be so frustrating until you figure it out. Once you figure it out, it can be very satisfying. But until
Yeah,
then, the gates, the lost inventory, because they lose stuff, they mislabel stuff. It's difficult. It's challenging.
Yeah, I've heard it's like a wall. Some people call it like a wall. Like, you have to keep on getting through different walls. And then you talked about like some people's account getting deactivated. That's a serious blow to your business. That you're losing all that time that you could be selling and making money that you can reinvest into your business. So that happens a lot more common than people think. Yeah, it's really important to try to be able to get through those hurdles faster, and you could also become more profitable faster. I'm wondering, for some of the students that you mentor, how long does it take for somebody to go from nothing, just starting out, nothing, I don't, or somebody who doesn't even have their Amazon store, to creating one and to start selling and to start being profitable? How long do you think it takes with somebody who has your coaching services, who get your mentorship?
What I tell anyone that reaches out to me that doesn't have an Amazon seller account is that I won't even consider, accepting any payment from them until they have an active professional seller account and a verified one. Because believe it or not, that's the first hurdle. It used to be a lot easier to get a seller account, and it's not as easy anymore. They might just reject you because they don't like your address, or they think you're someone else, or they'll ask you for a utility bill and they just won't accept the one you send. Kind of like the ungating. Like, it's just unbelievable some of the things that happen, right? So the first thing I tell people is go get a seller account, get it verified, set up the bank account, and then if you do that, then reach out to me. And then they'll usually reach out to me and I'll tell them, okay, now do this, and then create a shipment, go get some used books, do it on your own. I just want to see that they're into it, because if they won't even do that, I don't want to take on a client that is going to fail, right? So I'll get them to do some of the grunt work. I won't charge them anything. I'll just tell them to go do it. And they come back. If they come back to me and they say, "Hey, I did it. I shipped my first box," then I'll say, "Okay." Then I'll talk to them, and we'll set something up. I usually do a 10-week, 8 to 10 week program where we get on the phone a fixed number of times, and I tell you exactly what to do step by step. It's real hands-on, one-on-one. This is how you buy. This is how I do it. These are my suppliers. This is my entire logistics system. These are the companies that I use to move product from A to B. These are the brokers that I use to clear it. I give you everything. So that's what I do. Then I go through the entire product selection method that I use from end to end. We go over the risk mitigation, all the nuances required to select the right products in the right quantities, and then I get you to do it. And then you do it for a few weeks, and you start finding success pretty quickly because you're basically following the same formula that I use. So I've got clients that started, and within 2 months they were selling high in the five figures. So
Oh, wow.
I have one guy who's 21 years old who is sending me messages now telling me that he can't believe that he's selling 40,000 USD a month, and he's 4 weeks in, right? It took me a hell of a lot longer to sell 40,000 a month, like a year at least, right? So I have another guy that I coached in July, end of July, and he sold his first $100,000 month in November.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So he went from he was already doing some, like, the kid's a hustler, okay? Like, he's a smart guy, and he was committed, and I told him exactly what it would take, and he went out and did it, right? So I mean, to sell 100,000 in a month, you need to spend 40 grand, 30 grand. Like, you have to spend it because your output is only as good as your input. But he worked himself up from 8,000 to $100,000 in months, right? Again, it took me a lot longer than that to get to 100 grand a month, because I had to figure it out on my own, and I made a lot of mistakes. Like, the hand holding that goes on through this process is unlike anything that is offered in the market right now, right? And no pre-recorded course is going to teach you this skill in this way and in the time frame that we're living in, right? Like, we're living through a global supply chain crisis. A pre-recorded course from even just 6 months ago is not applicable in today's marketplace. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what you're offering is from a real seller, something that
Mhm.
he's doing on a regular basis for many, many years, and he continued to update with the latest intelligence. And then,
Mhm.
as you're doing those things, you're teaching those to other people, and they've already found success as well. I'm wondering, what worries or keeps you up? What worries you at night, if anything, or that can keep you up at night?
Okay. Well, account suspension is definitely one of them, because Amazon can be just so random, right? And you could be doing everything right, but a false claim, or Amazon being capricious, but they can be difficult, right? So the seller performance team can be unforgiving, and at times they won't even listen to reason, right? So you can provide everything that they're asking for, but they won't tell you what they really want, and they won't tell you what you did wrong. So it's a bit of a guessing game.
Yeah, you just keep going back and forth with emails, and then and
Yeah.
it's not getting anywhere. Yeah, we've all been
Yeah.
there.
So, I mean, I've had issues with brands making claims. I've gotten lawyers involved. I have a whole network of legal counsel now, and I know how to defend myself, and I know how to defend my clients too, right? Like if anyone gets in trouble, I know how to help them. That's what years of experience in dealing with Amazon will give you. But yeah, that's definitely one of the things that keeps me up at night. Sudden changes. I mean, some changes are good, but there's some changes that they can make that will greatly impact your business. So, for instance, last year they suddenly rolled out inventory restrictions to anyone and everyone, and for no rhyme or reason. At times, like they would decrease it or increase it. So you could be keeping up with all the metrics. You can have impeccable metrics for inventory management, and they would just decrease your inventory. But at the same time, you have a friend who also sells on Amazon who has unlimited inventory, and there's no reason for it. Like they don't even need it. So Amazon is an algorithm based company, and sometimes algorithms don't make the best decisions. And when you need to talk to a human being, they don't provide one for you. So you can't reason with them. So that keeps me up. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Those are the two things. I think you ask any seller what their biggest fear is, they'll tell you it's account suspension. And I've seen companies, eight-figure companies disappear over nothing. Businesses that are just completely destroyed
Yeah,
because,
families, the
yeah,
people who are working for them, families are.
exactly.
Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah.
Mhm. My advice is try to keep clean, right? Avoid risky products. Make sure you follow all the rules. One of the things that I do a lot of is I read the Amazon policies. Like I don't know how many of your listeners actually read the policies, but man, if you read them, like that alone will not help you sleep at night. Okay, so you read about all these prohibited ingredients, prohibited materials, certifications requirements that you need. At any point, they can just ask you for a document that you may not be able to produce in a timely manner, and your account's gone.
Yeah,
It's
especially you're selling tropicals or selling some items that it could be a chemical ingredient that now they don't allow.
yeah,
It could,
yeah, and yeah, the FDA changed. I remember one time I was selling an over-the-counter medicine, and the FDA changed the rules on what concentration of a certain ingredient could be sold in as over-the-counter, and all of a sudden, everyone's inventory became prescription, and boom, out went the notifications that you're selling prescription medication. And I mean, there are services that you can subscribe to that will notify you of these changes, but unless you know about them, you're not going to know, and your account's at risk. Or an item gets recalled for safety, and you happen to be selling it. If Amazon gets the notification before you're going to get a performance notification that could end your account as well. So again, unless you're on that same list that Amazon pays, probably a lot of money every month to be on to get those notifications, you're going to get in
yeah.
trouble.
What one of the news that BQool can help is Amazon announced that in April 15th that they're going to put if you have products that have been in storage longer than 1 year, they will automatically opt you out. And then so they're going to send the products back to you and discharge it back to you unless you opt in, unless you keep that
Correct.
storage. And then the other one is, after if you're not selling an ASIN, a listing for 6 months, then they will also automatically send the products back to you unless you opt out of that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. They do that without any real fanfare. Like there's no big notice about it. Or
right.
they'll set something up so that it automatically goes to their liquidation center and they sell it for 5 cents on the dollar. And if you don't know about it, you're toast.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, they have a reason, because they want enough storage space for their prime. They could change the rules anytime. So you do need experts to give you good recommendations, It's important. Another question we have for you, Pedro, is if you could have any superpower, what would that be?
Okay, like an Amazon superpower.
Oh, any superpower is we go off topic here. Yeah.
Okay, so I wish I could go back in time. I think that would be it. I think I could, if I, and not just go back in time. I'd want to be younger, and I'll tell you why. Like, I mean, I started Amazon at 37 years old, so I just think about the kind of damage that I could have done on this platform if I had started in 2006. I would have a tremendously huge corporation now. I'd probably be retired. It would have been a lot different if I had started before. So that's why I keep telling everyone, like, if you want to get started on this, like, start now, because every day that you delay just gets harder and it's less income for you, really. Because once you figure this out, it's a good living for sure.
Okay. So go back in time. Definitely.
If you ask me what I would want to be my Amazon superpower, I would just like to know some of Amazon's hidden criteria for buy box ownership and ungating and seller performance. That's the other piece of it. But definitely starting earlier would have been a great superpower for sure.
Yeah, I know many of our sellers would love to know how many products other people have. Also, whether Amazon's going to go on this listing or not, because that's going to help them decide if they're going to get lots of stock for it or not. Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why it's important to have someone who has the experience, who's doing this day in day out, who's a seven-figure seller. So if you want to find coaching, definitely go to Pedro. He has a phenomenal success on Amazon, and he also have many students who are succeeding as well. If you're from Pedro, if you're a student of Pedro, you will also enjoy a 30-day free trial of BQool worth $100, but you must use his link. And then also, I want to ask you, Pedro, is there any special promotion for our BQool community if they were to get coaching services from you?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody reaches out to me, I'm on Instagram, and I'll give you the link to that. You can look me up also. It's income.savvy on Instagram.
Income.savvy. Yeah.
Yeah, if you look me up and you write to me and you tell me that you heard about me on the BQool community, I'll give you 20% off my services. So again, I offer a package that's 10 weeks long, 8 to 10 weeks long, depending on how quickly we get through the calls. You'll find that after you learn the method, you won't really need me anymore other than to ask me the occasional question. So you get a lot of value from these calls because you figure out how to make money on Amazon right away, which is, you're not going to be able to do that in a regular business. To get in and start making money right away and profits and reinvesting. So I get you in, I get you going, I teach you how to fish. So I teach you how to find products that are going to make you money. You do it right away, and you reinvest, and you're going to grow your company exponentially. So what I can do for BQool members is I can give you 20% off my package. And it's one-on-one coaching. You're not going to get anything like it in the marketplace.
That's very generous of you. Thank you very much, Pedro. So for all the BQool community, make sure to contact Pedro. Let them know you're from the community. Follow him on his Instagram channel, and we'll have that in the description as well. And you'll learn so many nuggets of truth, save you so much time. You could be spending $7,000. You could be, you could get your account suspended. All of that could happen, but you find a coach such as Pedro with real sales in there who's doing that, who's still doing that. There's people on the market, they try to teach you, but they don't have such high sales. You're getting a masterclass here from Pedro. So definitely contact Pedro, learn from him, have specific questions, and he's not taking anybody. He's taking the people who's going to put in the work, who's already put in this work. If you are maybe a 5-figure, seller, maybe you're a 6-figure seller, you want to grow. You want to grow from maybe 5 to 10K all the way to 50 to 100K per month to get to that next level to help you achieve your dream of financial independence. Contact Pedro. Thank you, Pedro, for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Sam. Really appreciate it.
Cheers. Yeah, we'll be in touch. We'll see you in the next webinar.
Yeah, for sure.